way too hot in the gym to have this. So, panelists, do you need these lights on? We usually keep them off just because it short circuits the air conditioning. This is a very old building. So if you need more light, please let me know and we'll try it. Okay. All right, I'm going to start out by welcoming you to the panel on transitioning from school age to adulthood. I'm a member of the Helping Hands Center Continuing Education team, and the other members on this team are Cassie Wilhelm, speech language pathologist, Tiffany Johnson, and Whitney Williams. I think she's getting water, our physical therapist. Christy Feller is OT. We have Lindsay Douglas, who is greeting. She's one of our classroom coordinators. And Katie Summers, one of our teachers, who is also the moderator. She's a member of the continuing education team. So thank you for coming. Just so the panelists know, if you are a staff member of Helping Hands, raise your hand. Okay. And if you are a parent of somebody at Helping Hands, you have one. If yeah, kind of, because you're in therapies, yeah. And I think you're new to us. Are you members of the community that heard?
I stopped by here like a month ago, and then I looked at your website, and I wanted to come to this. So,
okay, great. Thank you. That's great to see some new faces. Awesome. Here, there's some water. So we have water for our panelists. All right, I'm going to introduce our moderator, and then she will start the meet the panel. She'll read the bios of our participants, and then we'll go to the discussion from there. If you have your program, there is a page that you can write down notes, and we will have a time for questions from the audience as well. Oh, pens. If you need pens, yes. Okay, Katie Summers received her Bachelor's of Special Education at the College of Mount St. Joseph in '06. She is a teacher of one of our middle school classrooms here at Helping Hands, and has been working with persons with a variety of special needs for 10 years. And she's been a teacher here for 5 years? 5 years. 5 years, and she will be our moderator. All right, take it away, Katie.
All right. I will go ahead and start by introducing the panel. I will start first to my left here. It's Corbin Kramer. He's 27 years old and a member of the Autistic community. And is currently working for Columbus City Schools as a substitute aide for the district. And his specialty is disability activism and promoting agency and advocacy for adults on the spectrum. And then we have Stephanie Morris. She is a parent advocate and neurologic music therapist. And she's currently a graduate assistant in the Ohio University Music Therapy Department.
I'm actually graduating in August.
She received her bachelor's in music from East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina, and is the founder and director of the Athens County Community Singers, which is a performing group for individuals with developmental disabilities in the Athens County area. And then we have Dr. Margot Izzo. She completed her PhD in special education and rehabilitation and research at The Ohio State University, and has her master's from George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and has over 26 years of experience in the special ed field. And she also has extensive experience with grant management, program evaluation, and political advocacy. And then, last but not least, we have Mr. Kurt Schmitter. Kurt has been employed by the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities for 25 years, and currently oversees ARC Industries Employment Services Department and the Bridges to Transportation Program, which is a VRP3 contract with the Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, and is focused on vocation rehabilitation funding for transitional youth. Okay, and we're going to start our panel just with some questions that we came up with between like some staff here with therapists and teachers, and then some parents. And then when we've completed all those questions, we'll open it to any other questions. And I think we're going to start with just kind of a general question regarding transitioning from school to adult programs and discussing like how early is too early to start planning. So the first thing we'll do, how early is too early to start planning transitioning from school to adult programs. And I think, does
3
anybody want to
months.
just jump
That's
in?
too early.
Like, we can just jump in on this one, that'll direct some of them more specifically as we go.
I believe it's never too early to start planning for the transition to adult life. When you have a preschooler at home and you expect the preschooler to do chores like help clear the table from dinner or make their beds in the morning, those are great skills that will lead to employability skills and high expectations. And so the thing is to always keep your expectations really high that your child will become gainfully employed in the community in a valued job where they can really contribute to that employer's bottom line.
I really second that because I feel like that as a parent that it's important my job is to make my child functional in the community and to be a contributing member to society. And so even little things, as she mentioned, are important. When you look at a child with autism, then you have to maybe rethink how you're going to do that. It may take making it into a game. It may require a calendar with stickers, or when my child was younger, there were, iPads and all these other things that are now available. So one of the things that I found with him, even as he began to get older, was that it was important for him to do the same thing every time. So we started out with him always setting the table. Because to empty the dishwasher was something that you didn't necessarily do every day. It was certainly a function that he could do by the time he was a teenager, but it was not something that he could do every day because your dishwasher didn't maybe need to be emptied every day. So setting the table was something that needed to be done every day. So then we were able to move to a chore or a task that didn't have to be done every day. So that was one thing that I think is important, and how you go about thinking about what you want them to do and how you want them to function.
And I would just like to add with what I do, and again, we have Bridges to Transition, and that's working with youth who are still in school, and we want to try to get them some summer career experiences and some exposure out there. So folks can get referred to our Bridges coordinators as early as 14 or 15. We're kind of maxed out now, so we're looking to enroll folks a little later because we do have some requirements and some deliverables that we have to meet with opportunities for hiring with disabilities. So we have to have successful closures, and if all of our caseload is with 14, 15-year-olds, we're not going to meet that. But I encourage parents, families to get folks involved with the Bridges, with traditional BDR as early as possible to get those opportunities. We do handle the enrollment for all Franklin County adult services. We have some parents that do an excellent job and are trying to get them enrolled a year, 2 years early. What we're saying is if you know an individual's going to be graduating, say they're going to exit in 2015, we want those referrals in the spring of 2014. We get over 100 consumers referred to us that are transitioning youth that have to go through our adult service enrollment, and we're getting referrals today that my son, my daughter are going to be out of school next week. They're graduating and we serve them. So we really got to, and I think we'll get into employment first here in a little bit, but employment first is going to really drive that as well as getting people engaged in the community quicker and quicker so that they are employable. when they transition out of schools.
I think another way that you can help with this process is participating with your child in a volunteer situation. I know that when we moved to Ohio, it was really challenging to get my then 27-year-old employed because he didn't have any background here in Ohio. So it was a little challenging to get the job going. And again, it was 2008-9 when the economy had kind of bottomed out. So, you know, we went to the library and we learned how to reshelve books. And we discovered that if we went on Tuesday mornings, well, that's when they had the preschool classes. And he didn't like that, so we switched and went to Tuesday afternoons. And so there were skills that we were able to develop in that situation that he then transferred to a job at our local Kroger, which he got later. But you know, those are the kinds of things that are possible. It involves your time as a parent or as a teacher, but you know, it's a learning opportunity for you.
Gaining skills for employment and gaining a lot of traditional skills was mostly trial and error. My mother did not know that I was diagnosed with autism disorder until way younger than 12. So she assumed I was neurotypical, just lazy. What is interesting is, I agree with the sentiment that it's never too early to start planning and planning for adulthood and for adult transitioning. And understanding the subset of skills that your kid has now and just kind of moving with them. If your kid does very well with very structured tasks, great, then he can fold clothes because that is a route structured task he's really good at. You have a kid that is very interested in textures and shapes and very good at picking out irregularities. Great. He can organize and start learning how to organize, say, a cabinet or sort of putting something together. You got a kid that is very good with animals. Does great with taking care of a pet, walks a dog every day, knows to feed the dog right away, will talk your ear off about dog breeds. That's definitely a skill he can work and volunteer at an animal shelter, or if possible, definitely go for a career in veterinary medicine. I did that. I was actually an intern at a vet in Mount Vernon, and I loved it. And then things happened in the BVR, the program that I was in, kind of bottomed that out. But knowing what skills your child has already through the course of his life and picking out those interests, you can start customizing a plan. So when the child is of an age where you start sitting down and talking to BVR, talking to occupational therapists about vocational training, you already have a goal list in mind and you already have a skill set in mind that you can do. My mother knew that I was very good with children. She knew that I have a love of children and a love of working with kids. So working in the preschool and Knox County Career Center was a very viable and a very powerful catalyst. It got me interested in education, and it continued my interest in education. Once my developmental and my emotional skills, my social skills caught up a little bit, because as most autistics were all over the map, it was then I started pursuing special education. I started pursuing mentorship, combining my interest with advocacy and activism with my love of working and being around children. So I combined them together. And many autistics will do that. Many adult autistics will find ways to combine their special interests as much as possible to a career. And some of them are very good with computers, so they work in IT. Some are very good at writing, so they go into journalism. Melanie Yurgo is in rhetoric and in English. She will go on and on about rhetoric. I know many autistics. My friend Jesse Roeder, he's a physicist. He has a love for science and a love for formulas. A love that route, very structured thinking. So he did really well in academics. Not all autistics can do well in academics. It's cutthroat. And it's very much a neurotypical field. Despite the painting of the cloistered professor in his office, always fixated on his books, it's very much a socially and networking game. And autistics struggle with that, especially getting things like tenure and all that. I hear it a lot from my friends who are professors, who are trying to survive in the quagmire of academia. Educators are going through that same thing. But to put this shortly, looking at what your child has already and their interests, and looking at their special interests, and then go, okay, how can we make that as an employable field? And work with that. And even if the special interests are, he likes paper, like you will spend hours shredding paper. Okay, you can work in a recycling plant. Right. Again, just look at what the kid's interest is, and of course, more importantly, talk to them. What do they want to do? What do they have interest in? What will they spend hours talking your ear off of, and what will they do with all their love and passion with?
Right. And even with my son, the challenge of wearing long pants and being in an environment that maybe wasn't quite as cool as he would like, it was still worth it to him to have a job where he could do certain things because he wanted to work. And so he worked around those issues so that he could have a job.
Well, Corbin reminded me of one other point that I want to make. Thank you, Corbin. I thought your answer to the question was very well stated.
Thank you.
Having positive role models and understanding what that disability means, I think, is critical. In our community, we have Temple Grandin, who, as a child, was, having temper tantrums and nonverbal. We have Albert Einstein, who exhibited some of those very same characteristics when he was a child. And yet, these minds have made significant contributions to, physics or animal science. And believing that your son or daughter or student has that same potential, it's our job to help figure out what that potential is with them, or help them figure out what that potential is. But believing that you can is so much of the battle. And when you use positive role models like Temple Grandin or Corbin Kramer, then you believe that you have hope, and you keep trying to work through some of those daily challenges that we all have, but sometimes become exasperated when we place a label on a specific individual.
I think it's also to keep in mind, those are great role models, and I've read some of Temple Grandin's books. I'm well aware of John L. Robinson, with his book, Looking in the Eye. They're all great authors and storytellers. Also, there's blogs upon blogs of just regular folks, not physicists or neuroscientists, just folks, just people. Several blogs that I follow. One of them is, she goes by the handle of Golden Rose. She's a 32-year-old adult on the spectrum with raising two autistic daughters. So she's an autistic parent raising two autistics. Her information, her insight is invaluable. There's another blog that I follow. I believe she's around my age, 28-year-old, who is a forensic anthropologist. And she's currently in England. She wants to get her dissertations on disability and archaeology. So she's studying, looking for basically burial sites of disabled person, and how they built and how they were treated back in those times, and kind of filling in those gaps a little bit, and kind of dispelling some mythology surrounding the care of paleo life for those who are disabled. And we spent hours talking about this stuff. But she's just a regular folks that lives in a flat, who has to deal with roommates all day, and has to deal with her mother, and getting her head cut, and she shaved her head, and so she's arguing with her mother about how her hair is cut. And they're just regular folks. And you wouldn't believe how refreshing it is to have somebody that is down to earth and at your level, that you can go, that's an appropriate role model for my child. You look at a non-speaking autistic who has gained skill with computer, and she's typing stories, and you can read those and go, that seems to be a reasonable role model for my child. I mean, sometimes you go a little too high, and you put a little too high expectations, but looking at day-to-day folks, real people there, who are sharing their stories, is so invaluable. And you're right, they're incredibly invaluable, incredibly critical. And most importantly, You can send them a message on Tumblr or send them a message on Facebook and go, hey, can I ask you a question? And guarantee you, 8 out of 10 will probably most likely answer it. I know I would. If the parent wants to say, I'm trying to find a service for my son who is incredibly brilliant, Aspie, what can you recommend? I'll give you a list of places. Or if just if an autistic themselves goes, having a bad day, and I have nobody to talk to, I have no problem flipping my chair around and go, all right, spell.
All right, so we can kind of build upon that of, you just brought up a whole lot of different ideas and things that are available out there in the blogs and books and everything. Something else that we wanted to kind of discuss was resources that are available as you do begin to prepare your child for transitioning. So those are some of those other opportunities that are out there in the community. And Mr. Schmidt, you brought up Bridges to Transition, but maybe this would be a good time to also discuss employment first. Either you were, you were Dr. Izzo. You can give a little more information on employment first. I don't know. I know.
Sure.
Both.
In your packets, there is a one-page description of the homepage of Employment First. And Governor Kasich signed a executive order that says that every person with a disability has a right to become engaged in community employment. He didn't say competitive employment, he said community employment, but the goal is that everybody gets a job that pays them a livable wage. And so, and then he ordered his cabinet, which at the bottom of that page, you'll see that the Department of Developmental Disabilities, where Kurt's from, the Department of Education, the Department of Medicaid, the Department of Jobs and Family Services, and the Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. He asked all of those agencies to align their policies to make community employment a reality. So on your IEPs, you can no longer write as a post-secondary goal for employment, John will transition to the sheltered workshop. You cannot say that, and in fact the Ohio Department of Education has passed a law that says you cannot plan to transition while a person is in school to a sheltered environment. You have to be focused on community employment. And so if you go to that Employment First website, there are projects for families and job seekers that will be presented. That project is in development, but when they have the job seeker tab, all the language in that tab will be focused on individuals with developmental disabilities. There's tabs for providers, job coaches, job developers, people who work in the employment industry. And we're looking at updating people's skills so that they know how to use technology and they know how to build skills through volunteer experiences, excellent recommendations, and then internships and paid internships that lead to real jobs. You want to add anything about?
Well, I'll back up for a second and just talk about Bridges to Transition and BDR funding. Franklin County DD works and collaborates with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities in Columbus Public Schools every year. And we have a career camp. This year we're going to have 60 youth that are going to, they're either in their junior or senior year. They're going to come and they're going to do summer work experiences. It's going to be a 5-week program this year. They are paid during their time.
They are?
Yeah. 2 years ago it was a stipend. Last year they began to fund for minimum wage for the time. So I love to go to the graduation because what we do is give you the last check. And it's just great to hear what, the things that open up and what they're talking about. And they see the possibilities. One of the things while someone's in school, you know, we also do collaborate with Columbus Public Schools and Life Care Alliance and Opportunities for High with Disabilities, and we have a project search at Life Care Alliance, and that's going through their senior year, and they're working on those skills. They're going to different areas. They're building that profile that Corbin's talked about, and what they like, what they don't like. And the more that information comes to us, especially from your teachers, the better our discovery is going to be, because when people come to our adult service enrollment, first thing we do is a full-blown discovery, and we're building that profile. We're doing some path and mapping and really identifying where's your community, what do you like to do, what are your interests. Because without that, we don't know what direction to help that individual go. So those opportunities with career camp, the things that BDR can do, it's great. Personally, I anticipate as part of adult services, we can begin to enroll folks earlier. We can start serving individuals at age 16. So if we're not seeing enough opportunities, Franklin County PD may make a choice to say, we need to create some summer career opportunities where we can get individuals out there. But you know, with Employment First, Margo is exactly correct. You know, the IEP's changed. We've changed our enrollment. Basically, we know this is coming. We want to be ahead of the game. We have a firm belief that we all can contribute to the community. So we pretty much closed the front door. We changed our enrollment in September of 2012, and we, in the past, we would have 15 to 20 consumers that were entering our 4 sheltered workshops every month. Since September of 2012, we've had 4 individuals go to our sheltered shops. So we're taking that option away, because once someone goes to a sheltered facility, studies show they're lifers. We got some very bright folks, and I was part of creating another project search, and I've got a firm belief that individuals on the autism spectrum can be excellent logistics workers. There's folks that are very good with computers. Most of the logistics here in Franklin County, you're using a scanner. So you're going to scan, it's going to tell you how many to pick. It's going to also tell you that you're positive or negative on your productivity. So that's a natural prompt for an individual. It's going to tell you speed up, or hey, you're rocking, doing a great job. So and again, that's a collaboration with Fairfield County DD, Franklin County DD, Opportunities for High-End with Disabilities, and DSW. They have logistics over on 5th Avenue. So we start actually June 9th, I believe, and we'll start before, and those individuals will go through 3 sets of internships, taking them to different areas. Logistics is huge here in Franklin County. They don't have enough folks to fill those jobs. The average retention rate is 3 years, and then people move out of that. So if we're able to find 1, 2, 10 individuals that would have been in our shops that are more appropriate at that distribution center, we're doing a good job. And some of those folks are going to go through that at DSW and say, I don't want to do logistics. But you know what? They've learned routines. You know, one of the things that we have, it's a huge facility. It used to be the Lockheed. They built airplanes at this facility. Huge. One of the routines is specifically structured so they have to navigate throughout the building and pick up corrugate and stuff in different areas. And it's got to be done on a time frame. So you're teaching someone how to be on a schedule. So again, you know, BVR, that's an option. Transition, just your volunteerism, that's something we're doing with our folks in our workshops. You know, we're going to get much more heavily involved with volunteering in the community, because we really feel those are some skills that are going to pique someone. A perfect example, our director at Arc West took someone nonverbal, we thought was nonverbal, took them to Columbus, or the conservatory. He lit up. He started talking. He loves plants. We never knew. Taking them out in the community and just giving them the opportunity to show us some likes and dislikes. It is very helpful. And you guys can give us that information so that transition is just so much smoother.
Right. BVR is interesting. You keep mentioning BVR. I want to share my experience with BVR. If it wasn't for BVR, I would not be working for Columbus City Schools. COVA and BVR allowed me the opportunity to be employed, gainfully employed, with a livable wages through Columbus City Schools as a substitute. And it's funny because BVR was a hit and miss for me. Because the first time I went to BVR, they couldn't help me at all. The second time I went to BVR, once I had a goal and a skill set, well, they'd be able to work with me. You know, it's really interesting because my job coach from COVA was Craig Starr, and he'll be emailing me or calling me up going, "Hey, Kramer, all right, how you doing? You want to come on down? We're gonna do some applications. What do you think?" And the way he treated me, and the way our relationship worked was very interesting because it was an equal playing field. He didn't treat me like a student or a client, or there was no power level. He treated me like we're buds. Okay, let's get down. We'll talk. We spent hours sometimes derailing while we were calling up schools to see if they were looking for aides. I did a lot of stuff on my own. He was very encouraging. And what's interesting is finding a vocational center is really, really important because Greenleaf was nothing. It just threw me into a job like a job group or something, and then taught me how to do interviews. And I already knew how to do an interview. I don't know how to fake normal in front of an interviewer. Don't stand, eye contact, short sentences. Don't talk about your interest. Don't talk about your interest. Keep your mouth shut. Yes. Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. I know how to do that. My mother was HR. My mother's HR. I knew all the shortcuts. I even knew what disclosure roulette was. It's a handy little phrase that adult autistics refer to as disclosing disability in front of an employer. Referred to as disclosure roulette because it is very tricky. And for some, it's a great way to get a job because, hey, I'm working in a field that happens to have an interest or whose interest in field is disability. Great, I'll be a perfect candidate. I'm working in the corporate America, working behind a cubicle. I just admitted that I have Asperger's syndrome, and the manager sighs loudly. Oh boy. But I think it's really interesting because BVR is a great tool for parents who have autistic adults or autistic teenagers, because they can go and discuss, okay, my kid has these set of interests. Help me find a vocational center that will fit him and that will end up working with them, because it can be very hit or miss. COVA was great, Greenleaf wasn't. I know several others that can be work or not work. And sitting there and talking to people and having the client, more importantly the consumer, talk to the job coaches is very important too.
Yeah, and it's important to know that the BVR and bridges to transition, that's time limited. They're going to place you, ideally what they're going to do is close your case in 90 days of successful employment. But the nice thing to know is and that's the timing, what you want to do. If you've got your individual hooked up with BVR and they're going to be eligible for Franklin County Board of Disabilities, you want to get them linked with both of them at the same time so that we can be in communication, whoever the provider is. You could select Franklin County as the provider. You could select COVA. You could select Greenleaf. But after that 90 days and that successful closure, if they're eligible for our services and they need that follow along or a job coach to come back in and do some training.
Or you can appeal the fact that they
Yeah.
want you to close, which we did. because we didn't come through the school system. He was already 24-ish when we got here, and we were having some challenges with finding jobs, and it was through the Discovery program that we were able to get through Kroger's computer personality test, because even the people with the county board that were assisting us, they were failing the test as well. So it took some work to figure out how that happened, and now he's been successfully employed there for over a year. So there are ways that you can fight the system if the system is not working for you, and we did that, and through fighting that closure, we were able to go through the discovery process, which helped us actually get him some employment. So changing states has its challenges. Of course, with Social Security, which is a federal program, all you basically do is change their address. But then when you go from state to state, Medicaid, services for developmental disabilities changes. And he grew up and graduated from high school in Texas, which has still the sort of mental health, mental retardation system. And so Ohio is very different from what you had to offer here. So if you're in the system here, then it's very easy to understand how to go through. Coming in from the outside, it's very confusing as to what you do first, what do you do next. And then if you're in a rural area where you don't have all the resources that the larger city has, because I'm from Athens.
I was a center for a period of time.
Yeah.
When I started working with BVR Mansfield.
Yeah. And so, you know, everybody has a different experience, but it can be rather challenging.
Can I have one more thing? One of the new exciting things is it's called Section 503 of the Fair Labor Standard Act, and President Obama has been very strong in his belief that 7%, well, let me back up. If you're a federal contractor, 7% of your workforce needs to be individuals with disabilities across all job classifications. You can have diabetes, you can have whatever. It gets into self-disclosure, and you can decide when you want to do that. But that's going to open the door. I've been to 2 open houses where federal contractors are coming in, and we're presenting and we're saying we can be a source for you. You know, I had at Worthington Industries, and there was, you know, hanging parts. It's going to go through a paint tunnel and then taking the parts off. Very repetitive, very good work for some of our folks. We have people that were seeking engineers. There's engineers out there. We have people that CAD/CAM design. So it's really going to open the doors for some other opportunities for us.
I wanted to add one thing. If you look at this transition goals in the IEP handout, it gives you very specific instructions on how the IEP is designed to promote transition to adult life, including employment, college and careers is a new buzzword. But schools have the responsibility to connect families and students to adult services. So it's really up to the school to know that DD services are available and VR services are available. So you've all heard Kurt say that it's important to apply for both of those services at the beginning of your last year, if not earlier in that school system. And you don't wait till the end of your last year in school, because there's a lot of eligibility and determination that agencies must go through. And you don't want there to be that huge gap in services if schools aren't able to find the right job for that person prior to them exiting the school environment. I mean, that's the ideal, is for schools to get the job. But if that doesn't work out, it's always good to connect your families and your youth to those adult service agencies.
one of the questions is who should come to the IEP meeting. And when we were in Texas, we got the director of the MHMR program there to come to our son's IEP meeting so that he could play a part in connecting us with some things that were available, especially during the summers, because we could not get extended year services. So what we did is we used teachers as job coaches to go out and do volunteer work experiences, and the teachers got paid with monies that that agency was able to provide. But had he not been a part of the IEP meeting, that would not have happened. So yes, it's important to invite people from agencies and communities. It shouldn't be just teachers and the parent who attends the IEP meeting.
What percentage of you as teachers, what percentage of your students have a Franklin County service coordinator? Okay, so yeah, so they're involved with FACES, and yeah, that's exactly what we want, because that should have helped with that transition. They should be at those meetings. They should be, actually they're not. I meet with them. I meet with them regularly.
Only
So
parents that really push for their coordinator to be there. Then they're there.
But what age? I mean, as early as young kids, they should be coming to those IEPs, or are you talking more teenage years?
well, definitely teenage years.
I would definitely agree that having students come and participate in their own IEP meetings is incredibly vital. It teaches incredible and good skills. More importantly, it teaches them determination and self-advocacy skills. This ability to know, to talk to their providers and to their teachers about what they want, what their goals are. How will they be able to talk to BVR, talk to their job coach, talk to their employer, talk to their professors? They do not know how to say, this goal is not working anymore. I've already surpassed it. Or, I want to try something else because I'm not reaching the goal quite yet. Can we try another step? Oh, let me tell you how awkward it is being in an IEP meeting and not knowing how to do anything. My mother never taught me how to say, I'm not very comfortable with this teacher because he talks down to me. Could I spend another hour in this resource room? Or, I want to switch resource time. Instead of being in the resource room at this hour, I want to go to this hour. Can I spend the resource room in the library because I don't want to deal with the bullies that trap me as I'm going up the stairs and start harassing me? I don't know how to say those things. I don't know how to do that. It was very scary at 18 years old, senior in high school, and not know how I'm going to self-advocate. A lot of it was trial and error and figuring it out. A lot of it also was talking with the autistics. And I think the age where a child should be part of the discussion is when he is able to say, this is happening. Be able to describe their experience. Now, at 2 or 3, having the child sit on the parent's lap and listening and being surrounded by those educators is a great sensory thing and is a great visual thing. These are some of you recognize, some of you trust, these are authorities. Having a 9-year-old who is very fluent, very communicative, very verbal, or at least incredibly communicative, being able to say this or that is incredible. And I think it's very, very important. I don't know if anyone will disagree with me, but having them gain those skills so they can participate will behoove them and benefit them as independent adults. Because mom and dad is not going to be there in your client meetings anymore. If you're sitting in BVR talking to your job coach, or in my case, powwowing on the phone with my coordinator and, oh gosh, looking in the shocked faces of both of my job coaches as she was going off on an inappropriate tangent about something about my life that had no purpose being there. Having the skills to go, let's get back on topic, please. Let's not talk about this personal thing in my life. Let's go back on topic. Those are very vital skills. And you can learn them through being able to talk and coordinating in an IEP meeting.
Well, we actually have guardianship of our son, so we participate in everything that he does because we chose to do that. But not everybody does that.
Yeah. My mother does not have guardianship being an independent adult. So
right.
Different strokes.
Yeah.
If anybody pitches them for different folks, I swear.
And that's, that self-advocacy is huge, and that's something you guys can be working on with your individuals. I'll be honest, we had a situation that could have been very ugly. We had someone that was going out to a community job assessment from our workshop, and the transportation dropped them off at the wrong place. And he did not feel comfortable. He knew he was at the wrong place, but did not feel comfortable speaking up and saying, no, I'm not going to get out. So as soon as that happened, and we have job clubs in all 4 of our workshops, we made that part of our job club where we're going to teach them the self-advocacy. We do have Project STIR that we send folks through training. We have a self-advocacy council that meets with Superintendent Morrison every month. Those are huge, and what we're finding is those individuals that are coming into our placement department from our enrollment process, we're saying engage them right there, because they then start talking about, I don't want that on my resume.
Or more importantly, this is an interesting experience. I started working at a nursery and horticulture up in Campbell, Ohio. Where was it? But it was Windhill Farms or something. And this was one of my very first employment opportunities. Did not pan out. Mostly because I did not do very well in overly routine tasks. I like routine, but I like varied routine. Meaning, having me wash pots all day and that's my job was not good for me. Having me wash pots and then maybe plant and then maybe do this and then maybe do that and then switch it around every other week is a lot better. But anyway, my job coach disclosed my disability without my consent. Completely broke HIPAA. Technically, she broke HIPAA. She told Bill Blasky, "Oh, this kid right here has Asperger's syndrome." Now, first off, I didn't disclose to Bill because I was waiting for an opportunity where I think it's a good idea to disclose. Second of all, she shouldn't disclose, period. End of story, full stop. That was not her job to go, oh, this kid right here has cerebral palsy, or this one has schizophrenia, or this one has Down's. That's not their job. They should not be able to disclose their client's disability. So my rights were violated. And I did not know at that time that she wasn't allowed to do that.
So there are some excellent free resources that teachers can use. Kurt mentioned the STIR. If you Google Ohio Self-Determination Association, there's a free self-advocacy curriculum called STIR, or the Project STIR. Project STIR, S-T-I-R. Also, if you Google the 411 guide, it's a self-advocacy guide that the National Collaborative on Youth Development puts out. And it talks about helping young adults understand what their disability is and how that disability impacts their work, their daily life. And once you understand your disability, you can make peace with it, and it doesn't become that embarrassing thing that you try to hide and spend all your energy hiding, instead of just kind of calling a spade and looking for the gems, the jewels of your talents and your passions and your abilities.